All right, what's going on, everybody? Today we have a very special guest with us, international guest. She has many talents, and she comes from Australia. Is that correct?
That sure is, yeah.
Awesome. So, would you like to introduce yourself, to everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I am a speaker, trainer, coach. Personality profiler is the main thing that I use in helping people to just navigate their lives to fulfillment. So, pretty much it's focused on, honoring our authenticity, deepening our intimacy, and also contributing meaningfully and purposefully. So, they're kind of the three major areas that I love helping people with, basically just to create fulfillment and make sure that we're living to the fullest, regret free and all that great stuff. So, yeah, and it's a pleasure to be on. Love connecting with you.
Of course. So, before we get into everything, I do like to start with something. Everything that you're doing now, what is your story of how you got into what you do? What led you to it? What was your life like before it? What were like the issues you had? If you want to talk about, that type of, your
Yep.
past and how you got to what you're doing now.
Oh, all right. You want the long story or the short one?
Go ahead, as much time as you want to. Go ahead.
Okay. So, basically, I was growing up, I was the youngest, I was the only girl in my family. Came with its perks, right? I got a lot of attention, I got a lot of love, I got a lot of looking after, all that great stuff. But it also came with some drawbacks in terms of, little naive little Vanessa, we've got to protect her, all those sorts of things. And it came with this kind of underlying feeling of not really feeling trusted. And if people around you that are your role models don't really trust you to make your own decisions, basically that pretty much impacted me to not trust myself. And so it led me to living this life unconsciously, of course. I can only put this language to it upon reflection,
Mhm.
but basically just living to the expectations of those around me, basically trying to work out, who do I need to be loved, right? And who do I need to be accepted? Who do I need to be admired by my parents, by my family? And your audience and you probably already know that between the ages of 0 and 7, we all kind of do that to some degree in our own lives. We develop our identity, who it is that we think we need to be to get that love and belonging and so forth. And I decided during that period of time that I was rewarded for, like a lot of us are, what we do, what we achieve, and basically it just set me on this pathway of being very disconnected to who I am or what my emotions were, and that came about through a series of different events that happened in my childhood. The major ones being that basically my eldest brother, so I have two older brothers, and the eldest one went through a stage when he was about 15 of basically just, like he ran away from home. He got into, different things, and basically I just saw him and my dad like fight, like physically fight. And basically I learned, at a young age that to have these overwhelming emotions that my brother was, sharing and creating this tension between him and my dad. And basically I decided back then watching this that, basically that's not a strategy that gets you love,
Mhm.
right? And I became the happy child who held it all together, who wasn't phased by anything, who just made everybody happy, and basically what that did was disconnect me from my own truth, my own clarity of who I am, what I want, and definitely lacked any courage to pursue anything that might have come up in that way. And I was so externally directed. What do they want me to do? I mean, I even let one of my other brother pick my university degree for me, never really knowing what it was that I wanted to do with my life, outside of doing something academic because that's what, my family would expect of me. So I never questioned that. I did a business degree. and like hated it, right? I just went out and partied and distracted myself the whole time, which I find is a common theme and a common pattern and a common strategy that a lot of us use to escape the reality that we don't like, and we don't even know that, right?
Mhm.
Um, but basically, I finished my business degree, still didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with my life, still had no idea that there was this whole realm of personal development. And so I started a law degree because I thought, well, at least that'll open up some doors. And again, still on an unconscious level, just chasing that acceptance, that admiration, that approval from my family.
And how
Um,
old were you around this time?
yeah, around this time, I started my uni straight out of school. So I did my business degree actually from 18. And then I was working as well. So I worked in mortgages at a bank and so forth. And I came back to uni at, I think, about 23. And then basically, I was going through my law degree and I had about a year and a half left on this degree. And every day that was, going on, I was just getting more and more physically sick, right? Like, the closer I came to the reality of becoming a lawyer, living the life of a lawyer and not just a student studying, the more I was literally ending up in the fetal position with no and exhausted and no physical reason why that could be, right? And I found myself like avoiding people because I just felt so fake. I felt like I was just living this complete lie. I just didn't even know who I was. I had no alignment, no internal connection. It was all determined by these external sources. And I got into a new relationship at the time through my distraction then became health and fitness, right? Like that was my escapism. I got like totally addicted to learning anything I possibly could about health and fitness, which was an upgrade from the party lifestyle, right? To transition the addiction there. But basically, through all of that learning, I met my then partner, now my ex partner. Um, and basically through the health and fitness industry. And when we first met, he invited me to come along to a Tony Robbins seminar that was being run here in Australia. And he said, go, like, I'd love to take you along to this, go check out Tony Robbins. And so I Googled Tony Robbins, never heard of him. And I came up with some videos and I was like, whoa, like this looks like a cult or something, it just looked crazy. And, but, I've always been of the mentality that I'll try anything once, right? So I'm like, yeah, sign me up, let's do it. And I couldn't be more grateful, honestly, to be in that environment. And basically, what happened for me, this was back in 2013. So I think I would have been 24, turning 25 that year. And it all started at Unleash the Power Within, Tony Robbins' first signature event. I went along to that, and 24, and that's when everything, all the inner voices that I'd been shoving down, and distracting myself and wearing a smile, and yeah, I'm acing this class, and I'm doing this, and I'm totally know what the hell I'm doing, right? BS. But not knowing it, just great at deceiving myself. And basically, at that age, it started like opening up, right? That's when I started getting super sick. This happened in April 2013. And of course, at the end of that event, I actually ended up signing up for the whole Mastery University, like everything Tony Robbins offered. And basically, the next event happened in August. So between April and August, it was like, oh, that inner voice, I just couldn't shut it up. And I was trying to stuff it down. And that's when I was getting really sick. And, like just my whole life became a bit of a roller coaster at that point. And then I got to Date with Destiny in August of 2013. And that is where everything changed for me. It was literally a date with my own destiny. And what happened at that event was, I remember it was, I'm in this room of about 2,000 people. And we're going through this process where we have to actually ask ourselves the question, like, why are you doing what you're doing in your life, right?
Mhm.
And we had this kind of pause, and we're all madly like writing in our workbooks. And I was having this crazy inner dialogue. And basically what it was, this part of me that was like, what the hell are you doing? You're not a lawyer. Like, who do you think you are doing that? Like, that is not you, right? And then this other part of me that was going, well, more of the fear driven side of me was like, no, 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 you can't even like even question that. Like, you have to finish what you started, right? You are too old to make a change. Because I felt super old, like going back to uni again, and like most people were like 18 and I was like 24. I felt super old, right? And having this inner dialogue back and back. And in that moment of just this total inner dialogue going crazy, this woman leapt out of her seat just across the room from me. And she just was bawling her eyes, like a huge smile, just like tears of gratitude just overwhelmed her. And she like she was like yelling out to Tony, Tony, and he gave her the mic and he's like, what's going on? Like, what's this breakthrough, right? And she was like, oh my gosh, like all my life, I've been a successful lawyer, been, top of my class. But I've had 3 divorces. None of my children talk to me. And I've just made the discovery that I decided to become a lawyer because I thought that's who I needed to be in order to get the love, acceptance, approval from my father. And now at 65 years old, I feel so grateful that I've made this discovery and I've got the whole rest of my life to live authentically to me, to get to discover what I'm inspired by, to align with that, to get to live that. And in that precise moment, her saying how young and excited she was, and she had 40 years ahead of me just making this same discovery, that limiting belief of mine that I'm too old to make a change, it literally just shattered, and it was in that moment I remember running outside with my then partner, and just this, it's still to this day the highlight of my life. I remember it was up in the sunny Queensland is like in the north of Australia here. It's just beautiful, beautiful environment. I remember running outside, it was sunny, we're in the grass, and I remember this overwhelming sense of certainty and excitement and calmness kind of at the same time, to just realize that, oh, like I have done that. And this woman just showed me my future. And how lucky I am that I can now, at 24, 25, I think I just turned at that point, I get to choose the whole direction of my life. I get to discover what it is that I'm inspired by. And I can, I can get off this wrong path. And so it turned out that the very day after this event finished was the final day that I could let my university know whether I was going to come back for another semester or not. And so I called them, and got off the wrong path. And the funniest thing is that what I was most terrified of, that, kept that inner voice, that inner knowing that knew I was on the wrong path, kept it kind of quiet and kind of shutting it down, was basically that I knew the repercussions from my family. I, at the time, was being very well looked after, right? Being paid a full-time wage just to attend uni, my car paid for, I was getting an allowance, I was getting like all like pretty much paid to just do uni, right? And pretty good lifestyle from the outside, right? Looks pretty, you're pretty lucky for that, right, Vanessa? And basically, I knew all of that would be taken away from me. I knew I'd be called a failure. I knew I'd lose all that need, all those that admiration, that acceptance, that approval that I was after and basing my entire existence on. I knew I'd lose all of that. But coupled with making that breakthrough at this event, I also was able to get outside of my own perspective and world, and discover and see that truly my family just wanted me to be happy. It was just that their model of the world saw that for me to be happy, I needed to be a successful doctor, lawyer, engineer. If my dad had his way, whatever that is, that was their model of the world, to make sure that I was successful, that I was fulfilled, that I had, every need taken care of for me. And when I realized that at the depth of that, they just wanted their daughter to be happy, I was able to hear everything that came my way. You are a failure. You need to finish what you started. You've lied to us, right? All of the most hurtful things that my previous self would have just been completely shattered by. It didn't feel good, but I was able to hear it because I knew I just needed to show them that that's not my model of the world. That's not how I'm going to be happy. And in actual fact, my happiness was in the pursuing of, whatever inspired me and getting off the wrong paths. And, my mum deleted me off Facebook. We laugh about that now. She didn't talk to me for months. I did get cut off financially and had to, it was good for my growth, right? And growth into adulthood, to be able to fend, have this lesson of fending for myself. Um, all of those worst nightmares happened. But I laugh about it now, because my mum and my dad are my biggest supporters. They fully accept me now for a human being, an adult human being who makes her own choices. Even if they don't agree with them, we have a very adult relationship now. And my mum even works in my business, right? So she is not only my number one supporter, she is, works in my business. And yeah, just, it's so beautiful, the transition that's happened. That took a few years of me proving the path that I was on and my happiness and me becoming an adult. But basically, that was a long story, pretty much, of it. And that's why I am so passionate about helping people know who they are, know what they want, have the courage and the confidence to go after it. One of my greatest mentors is a guy by the name of Dr. John D. Martini. I'm not sure if you've heard of him or not. If anybody listening to this hasn't heard of him, I really invite you and encourage you to check out his work. But he has this saying that I love, which is, it's our perceived voids in our childhood that actually create our values. And our number one value in life is actually our purpose. And that is why I am so passionate about helping individuals tap into their greatness, their strengths, not mold themselves to the expectations of anybody else. And to know what their value is, and to, share and contribute in their own unique ways, to honor their diversity, not just try and belong and fit in, but actually stand out with the truth of who you are, honoring that truth, deepening your intimacy with yourself and others, and ultimately contributing meaningfully and purposefully so you can make a meaningful difference with your life. And people don't do that by trying to be other people or trying to live to the expectations of others. Our greatness is found when we discover our core, and we align with that, and we hone and develop our strengths and tap into what inspires us. And that's why I'm so passionate about that, because I know what it is to not have that. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, so there's a lot of things you said in there, but one of the things that I do really like talking about is parenting. And you and me have spoke about this before, because everything about our lives, it starts with our parents, or whoever raises us. Really, that's where we get our social cues from about how to grow as a person, how to be person. So it's up to our parents to really instill those types of confidences or lack of confidence. Is honestly a lot more of what I see. Like, I talked about this in the last podcast episode I did. A lot of people are coming out of high school, or going into high school, or going into college and coming out, and they still don't know who they are. They still don't know what they want to do. They still don't know anything about how to be almost an adult, really. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that I call it baseline parenting, and I talked about this in the last podcast episode, And it's kind of like, okay, I raise you, I, give you shelter, I pay for you. Let me send you to school. Let me listen to what the school says about you instead of me actually taking, an active interest in who you are as my child and my responsibility. So they listen to the school, be like, your child is do this, he's do this, he does that. There's too much of this, whatever. And it's like I've seen so many parents discipline their kids based off what the school says instead of actually talking to their kids and being like, hey, what's going on here? How can I help you? What are you struggling with personally? Let me get to know you. They leave it up to the school to raise them. And as they raise them, and then they, like I said, they come out of high school and there's just so many people who just they don't have that confidence in themselves. And so it's crazy to see. And that's why one of the reasons why I wanted to teach parents how to have more effective parenting, because if we
Mm,
can get parents to parent better, more effectively, we can have more better accomplished, healthy, confident teenagers, adults that can actually spread more. They can know their passion, they can know who they are coming out of school, they can get right to work on it. Imagine if we knew who we were, what we wanted to do at the age of 10 years old, 7 years old, 12 years old, how much easier that would be for our life, moving forward, instead of learning who we are by about 25. And so one of the things I always say is, for a lot of people, adulthood, honestly, is really undoing a lot of the shit that your parents put inside you, whether unwillingly or whatever it is, it's kind of sad. So
mm,
that's what I kind of did with myself. I spent a lot of my teens and especially my early adulthood years kind of, I always thought of it like a rope. And in that rope, there's like a bunch of knots from your past, from your traumas, your emotional insecurities that your parents unknowingly or knowingly instilled in you, and it's so much more work you have to do to undo all those knots. So that's
yeah.
why I wanted to create programs to help parents learn how to find that in their children, to help raise their children in a way that says, hey, I'm not just your parent, but I'm also here as your guide, as your mentor, as your just anything you need me to be. I'm here to help you in your own, in your journey through life, so you can have an easier way through life. So
Mm,
going from that, human needs, because obviously this falls into human needs. I know you talk about this, and then Tony Robbins does too. He talks about the 6 human needs. Would you
yeah.
mind telling everybody about those?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to touch on, because I loved what you just shared right then. And I love that concept of baseline parenting. And I love that you've got this drive and this mission and this vision to actually, see the effects of that and probably experience the effects like we all have of that as well. And to want to get to the core, want to get to the root, like how do we make sure that this doesn't just keep going on generationally and generationally? Um, and so, yeah, just before we get to the 6 human needs, if you wouldn't mind me just tapping into a little bit of that, because I think what you shared was of immense value and of real importance. But basically, I look at it this way: we are all doing the best we can with the tools that we have. And I really do believe that we can only truly help people to the degree that we've helped ourselves. So one of the ways I look at that is, like, the best way is to work on your relationship with yourself if you really want a role model for anybody in this world, and of really be of any sort of meaningful influence or impact. You have to be in alignment. And when I first started in coaching 7 years ago, I started with couples coaching with my then partner, because we were really inspired by the realm of intimate relationship and mastering this area. And we saw so many great intentions, and just people falling short because they didn't know the basics, right? They didn't know the dynamics. And so was really passionate about that. But the one thing I found, and why I transitioned into first helping the individual, was that if the individuals in that relationship, if they weren't looking after their own inner world, their own sense of their individuality and the growth and the healing and all of that stuff that they needed to do, it didn't matter what tips, tools, training, strategies you gave them on relationship dynamics. It wasn't going to land for them, right? You couldn't train their partner to, do things that would land for them because, they were working from the inside out, and they couldn't hear that language because they didn't have that language that they could understand within. And so the same thing is with any relationship, whether that's between intimate partners or mother child, father child, whatever the relationship. Basically, if we don't have our own inner worlds in alignment, we're not growing. If we're not feeling a sense of contribution and fulfillment within ourselves and what we're doing in life either, it's very difficult for us to have real conscious impact on anybody else in a positive way. Right. So, and look at it like this, like, who you can't trust like a fat person eating McDonald's to tell you to eat healthy, right? Like,
Yeah.
and kids are so good at like seeing the inconsistencies and
Yep.
incongruencies like going on with like role models, right? Like, or the leaders or the teachers or the parents. So we can't trust that. So that's why one of the major reasons I absolutely have fallen in love with personality typology. And I use a couple of different frameworks with that, because basically we can now look at the neuroscience of how you're wired as an individual. And it's really why, say two kids can grow up in the exact same environment in a family and have very different outlooks on basically how they've grown up, on the world, on what they're passionate about. And different kids need different nurturing, they need different ways of parenting. And so, what I actually like doing is helping, say, a family uncover who they are based on the neuroscience of their personality, the wiring, right? How they're making their decisions, how they learn best. And by that way, we can actually tailor parenting. And I'm not a parent myself, so I say this, with a grain of salt here. Like, I'm not a parent, so I'm not talking from personal experience. I'm only talking from experience with other humans, and also learning from people who I do admire and see are doing great things in their own parenting. But basically, to know that we can tailor that parenting, or if you're in relationship with your partner, you can tailor how you connect with them based on how they're wired, not just this projection of what we think is best, which is, ultimately what, creates the wounding, creates the trauma that we then need to, like you mentioned, we need to go back and like untie those knots, right? We need to heal those wounds. So yeah, and basically, just to finish off, I know I had a lot of points on what you just shared then, but it's also the number one reason why, with my own coaching of others, I had to transition and make the first section of coaching with people actually going back and clearing the past. Going back and undoing what has been done from maybe very well-intentioned parents, and even the best of the best parents who are so intentional about everything. It's not really necessarily all on them, it's how it's received. So you've got to know who your audience is, right? You've got to know who that child is, you've got to know who your partner is. And basically, we've got to get to a point where we're no longer children, and that becomes our responsibility, not being a victim to what's been done or not done, and honoring that, of course, but also then going, I'm taking 100% responsibility for who I am and, how I show up in this world. And if that means I've got to take some time to go back and heal and rewrite the past to make way for my future, that's what I'm going to do as an adult. So yeah. Do you still want me to go into the 6 human needs, or what are your thoughts
um,
on anything there?
yeah, real quick. I guess introspection would really be the key in all that, right? So a
Mm,
lot of people, they go through a lot of life and they don't look back, and they don't go through their past, and they don't go through, okay, like you said, why am I like this? Why does this happen? Why do I feel like this? What's making me feel like this? What can I do to not feel like this, And so,
yeah.
especially in relationships, it's one of the things that I like talking about. Is I see
Mhm.
a lot of people, they go through relationships and they get into the next one and the next one and the next one, and usually it's with the same type of person. Like,
Yeah.
just a different, different appearance, but the same type of, pattern and all that type of stuff. And then they keep
Mhm.
saying like, "Well, why do I keep attracting these type of people?" And it's like you haven't introspected. You haven't said like you have that's a good question. Why am I attracting these people? It's because something inside me is attracting these people to me. So I need to go inside and look at, what is attracting these people. So
Yes. That's
introspection is one good key. I know I did
yeah.
that myself when I started getting into personal development around when I was 18 because I was looking for questions and answers that I couldn't get in my own life, by the people closest to me, by my friends, by my family, by whoever it was. And so I kind of felt like I had to, find that success and everything on my own. So I had been studying personal development and business, all this other type of stuff for years. But it wasn't until I took a trip. I actually moved out to Europe for a little while, and it was really
Ah,
awesome. It was really awesome because what happened there was I was away from everybody, and I was away from just all politics, all anything, old friends, old environment, old family members, because that's obviously one thing that affects everybody when they're trying to move forward or have a different type of lifestyle or do better with their life is their parents or their friends, or it's the pull of the old environment. Like how you make it that much harder on yourself if you're trying to move forward in life, but you have your friends like, hey, let's go drink tonight, let's go out to the bar, let's go do this, whatever. And it's just like, well, I mean, I love my friends, I love my family, so I guess, so you make it that much harder on yourself to move forward.
mm,
But so when I had went to Europe and I had lived there, it was kind of like it did something for me. It solidified like all the information I had been learning for years. Like it was like connected all the dots together. So when I came back, it was like that all the knots that I had in my life were just gone when I came back, and my life just felt so much more better after that. Like I felt so much more confident. I felt like I kind of found myself when I was in Europe, to be honest. So did you ever
yeah.
have that any type of introspection or that moment where you like, or was it at the Tony Robbins events, or where was it where you like introspected and you changed? Oh, it was Day with Destiny, right? Is that where
Yeah,
your massive shift happened?
that was where the beginning shift happened. Like, that's where it, yeah, all began back there. But I mean, my life is a series of introspective moments, right? Daily, for the past 7 years. Like, I've literally feel so grateful that I've managed to build a business out of growing myself, right? And learning more about myself. But what you said about environment is one of the absolute keys, because you can only really think to the degree, it's kind of like you can literally, like, you've got a lid, like a roof on, like you're just sitting in your same old house, you have the same old thinking, same old environment, same old people. And basically, I really resonated with what you said there about going to Europe. That's actually one of the main things that I did. When I started, I've always traveled, I've been very lucky that way. And so I'm very passionate about seeing the world. And I've done a lot of travel, which I'm very grateful right now with COVID, because there's a big limitation right now. But basically, when I first started my business, like very close, I think 6 months after I made that decision at Date with Destiny, I was actually traveling around Europe for 10, nearly 11 months around Europe and the UK, building a business, trying to create an extraordinary quality of relationship, money only coming in through this new business. Literally, it was challenging, right? Because didn't even know where I was going to live the following week, didn't know how we're going to get there, didn't know how we're going to create the money to even make that happen. There were plenty of times where we were, in France, and we had like a couple of euro and just made fun with that to go down to the supermarket. What are we going to eat for dinner with €2? Get a baguette. Like, red wine's pretty cheap over there. So we could get like a bottle of red wine and a baguette, and that taught me so much. Um, and I've also done, yeah, more recent travel, and I've done a 10-day silent meditation retreat just a couple of years ago in France. And yeah, like loads of lessons with that as well. But basically, one of the things that it really taught me is you can't run away from the reality within, right? Like so many of us, like we think when we've got a challenging circumstance, number one, yes, change your environment. That's going to help you think differently. but don't travel and don't change your environment to escape reality, right? Or to try and dull down what's really going on within. Because that's what I found. Like my partner and I traveling around Europe and the UK for that 10 months was some of the most challenging times of our lives, right? And relation in our relationship, all the pressure financially, all the uncertainty we threw ourselves into, all of that stuff. And from the outside in, it looked like we were living this amazing life, right? Like, oh, they're living the laptop lifestyle. Where are they tomorrow? Like, and they're all in these different countries, and wow, that's so beautiful and so amazing. But like, literally, the main thing it taught me was like, yeah, you can't escape the reality within. If you're not doing the work inside, like, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. And in fact, my brother, at one point, he went through a terrible divorce during that time. And I invited him, come and spend some time with us for a month. And he came and met us in Spain. We were in some of the most beautiful locations ever, and he couldn't experience any of it because of the depression that he was in, right? You
Mhm.
take you with you, right? Like you were mentioning with those people who, why do I keep attracting the same person all the time? Well, you're the common denominator of
Yeah.
all of your problems, right? Like,
Yeah.
and but yeah, so great way of thinking about, environment shifts, awesome. Don't escape reality because you can't run away from yourself. And the moment you wake up to that is the moment that you actually take responsibility for your life and actually change the pattern and create what you want. We've all heard you can, design your life, or you can just end up defaulting into mediocrity. Right. So, yeah. Anyway, long journey with
You,
that one as well. Mm.
no, it's pretty cool because it blows my mind that you said that because I was in that same situation actually when I was in Europe. I wasn't rich or anything like that when I traveled, so I was kind of going through the same thing. Actually, it's pretty funny because I've told the story just a couple of times before, but I had left from New York to Paris. And when I got to Paris, I had an Airbnb picked out, and it was fine. But I didn't realize that the bus, it was in another city. I forgot what it was called, just right outside of Paris. And I didn't realize the bus stopped like at 6 or 7 o'clock p.m. to that city. And so I'm over at a restaurant, and I'm just here, like looking around and stuff, and just enjoying myself. And the bus is, I went to the bus station, and I said, "Hey, I'm trying to go here." It was called Bouvet. That's what it was, Bouvet.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to get here." And they had told me, "Oh yeah, that bus stopped like an hour ago. There's nothing for the rest of the night." I was like, "What? Is there anything else I could do?" And they're like, "No, you're kind of screwed till tomorrow, pretty much." So I spent the first night in Paris, kind of in downtown, like kind of on the streets, almost on the streets, like trying to stay awake and just kind of trying to stay up through the rest of that night, like by myself in Paris, in Europe, just me. So it was pretty crazy, but there's so much more stories like that. But yeah,
I just
emotionally.
I
Yeah.
want to interject with that because it's too funny. Yeah, like that's a crazy story, and I've had something similar happen. I was traveling around France in 2018. Was on a train, coming from, oh God, it was just a really long train ride. I can't even remember where I was coming from, but basically it was supposed to I wasn't supposed to go to Paris. I was supposed to go, I think I was going from north to south, and I was supposed to get off, but I didn't understand, and the stop was super quick. And basically, anyway, ended up that missed the stop, and it ended up being the train's problem. Actually, they didn't let people know, so there was a bunch of us,
Mm,
and we all had to be put up in a hotel in Paris and just try and find our way and whatever. We weren't living on the street though. That's next level, having to
yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Oh man. Actually, I had tried sleeping inside the bus station. I didn't know that it closed, and so
Uh,
I woke up to two French police officers poking me, and they started speaking French to me. And I wake up in the daze. I'm like, what's going on? Why are these French cops like talking to me? So at the time, I knew like a little bit of French because I had been studying for a while. So it was like est-ce que vous comprenez l'anglais, which means you speak English. And they're like,
uh-huh.
"Yeah, we do." And I explained the situation, like, "Oh, you can't stay here." And that's when I went into downtown. But oh yeah, so it's crazy that you said that
That's so
about you
fun.
traveling around. Yeah, But moving
Uh,
forward,
mm,
um, if you want to talk actually about relationships, because one of the main reasons why on like I talked to you before, why I wanted to have you on is feminine leadership. You know, a lot of women today, they kind of are more encouraged to go a lot more in their masculinity, or life kind of pushes them into their masculinity, you know? So
yeah,
I see a lot of the feminine women, they get involved with wrong relationships, and then, the guys who they date, obviously, life and everything else is a factor, but typically what I see is they start getting more bitter, more angry, and they start holding on to that anger and often resentment, hatred, all the negative emotions, and they put this massive shield of armor over themselves. And a lot of times results in masculinity.
yes,
So,
absolutely.
so if you would like to explain the masculine and feminine energies, that would be, I think that would be a good
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics, and yeah, I know it's a passion for you as well. And yeah, so this is a big part of how I love people owning their authenticity and empowering themselves consciously. And so, what generally happens? So, if we just describe masculine and feminine energy, I'm not sure if your audience has heard of that or not. I will say I've done a number of different masterclasses on a lot of what we're speaking about. So, I could, anyway, we could talk about that, but I'd be happy if anybody listening to this wants to go deeper because these are deep topics. I'd be happy to like waive the joining fee for any of your audience so they can get access to that information. So
Oh,
yeah, we
awesome.
can give them a link or something. But basically, every single human being has both masculine and feminine energy, but we have a core essence. And the major reason why this is important is that basically, yes, we're all equal. But if you want really lasting attraction in your relationship dynamics, you need to know about masculine and feminine energy, and you need to know how to access it and play into either side. Because basically, a lot of people are ending up in relationships that have a lot of attraction in the beginning, right? And then it just kind of becomes roommates. They just kind of, are annoyed by one another. They lose the attraction. And I hate in our society that that becomes like the norm, right? Oh, yeah, that's the honeymoon period. And then, yeah, that's just how it's all downhill from there, right? And basically, that's not the reality if you understand the dynamics at play and you understand the different concepts that we're talking about here. So let me describe it from the basics, just a little touch on this, be it that it is a deep topic. But feminine energy is really connected to more of the flow of emotion. It's very spontaneous. It's very creative, right? It's very in the moment. It's like an unpredictable storm, right? And the rainbow, and it's all of it, right? It's that real creativity and spontaneity and flow and connection with deepening into love and openness and receptivity. Whereas masculine energy that we all need as well is basically more like a train on the tracks. It's got the blinkers on. It's like, what's the goal we've got to accomplish? Feminine energy is trying to make things bigger and deep into love. Masculine energy is kind of make things small, like close off, like it's more about death, right? Death
Mhm.
versus like growth and expansion, or love. I shouldn't say growth and expansion because it's obviously it could have a different connotation with that. Um, but basically they're opposites. They're opposite polarities. Train on the track, knows what it wants, goes after it, gets it. Feminine energy, like might want something like that this moment, but then it's going to change. And it's like it's really reactive to the moment, right? So they're mirror opposites. And basically, we need both. We need that ability to achieve, to be directed in our lives. We need that ability to be creative and spontaneous and deepen, to life, right? But what happens is in our society, masculine energy is rewarded, right? Like, so, we're taught like at school, like achieve, get the goal, it's very masculine dominated. And feminine energy doesn't get the love that it's kind of looked down upon. It's kind of looked at as a weakness or wishy-washiness or as a general kind of rule, and I can speak in my family, very masculine dominated family. Even my granny, who, escaped the Holocaust, and she's German, very masculine woman, very, like, just so masculine. And my mum is super feminine. She's like the only feminine, role model, I guess you could say, that I had kind of growing up. And to bring it back a little bit to Tony Robbins, because that's when I first really learnt about masculine and feminine energy. He learnt from an amazing teacher by the name of David Data. Quick side note, really recommend the book, The Way of the Superior Man, for
Yes.
any man or woman. Oh my gosh, the bomb, for understanding these sort of concepts. But basically, at that event, the Date with Destiny event, Tony Robbins does a whole day on relationships. And I hate to say it now, because I've went back to Date with Destiny, and he's taken this element out of his teachings now, which is really sad because it's so beneficial. But basically, without going too deep into it, he really spends this time giving you the experience of what feminine energy is and masculine energy. And I had an experience there also where it was the first time in my life where I no longer judged my own feminine energy, right? And I actually appreciated it, and I saw what value it contributed, not just in relationship dynamics, but in life, like all the beauty that is in that feminine essence that we have. And basically, that woke me up to honoring that part of myself, rather than feeling like I just had to be the achiever and had to get the goals and all of that sort of stuff. And what actually happens in these dynamics that you just articulated with, women who, maybe they're great and super successful in what they do, right? And maybe they make a lot of money and all this sort of stuff. And that's great. We want women to be able to do that, right? And we want men to be able to do that. We want everybody who is a human to be able to do that. But where it's really impacting in a negative way is the inability to transition from the masculine into also the feminine part of who they are when we come into our intimate relationships. And that's why women get more and more angry, right? That's what you can see, because majority of women, we'd say there is a loose kind of percentage of about 80% of women are more feminine at the core of who they are. Doesn't mean they don't have the masculine energy and they can't utilize it brilliantly. But what happens is that's kind of they're taught over time as they grow up. Oh, like that's you being like, you've got to grow up now. You can't be so sensitive. All these things, like you've got to achieve goals. You've got to be able to rely on yourself. So they grow up and we put a masculine mask on. And then we get into university, we're putting more masculine masks on. Oh, we think we need to get the promotion by being more masculine and directed. Oh, we put another masculine mask on. And then we get into relationship. Now we're leading with this masculine energy. We end up attracting generally the opposite. So we're attracting feminine men. Now this feminine man, he's more than likely quite masculine at his core. But what he's been taught growing up, toxic masculinity, authoritarian masculinity. Oh, don't hurt girls. And then they're terrified of, stepping into that strength because it can be aggressive, right? And so they put on feminine masks in order to fit in the world. Oh, I can, connect with women here. I'm not threatening anybody. I'm just going to put this feminine mask on. And so what happens is these two people meet with all these masks on. They're not operating at the core energy of who they are. And what happens is they don't get these dynamics. And so the biggest thing that I see is any feminine woman at her core, in her core essence, we need safety. We're always looking for a sense of safety, even though I wouldn't have even consciously known that, right? And I would have probably gone against that. Basically, if there's not a masculine energy who's going to step up, we will do it. But it's
Right.
exhausting And it's freaking annoying. If you're a feminine woman, there's a part of you that really wants some masculine strength that you could just fall into the arms of and feel safe with, right? Feel his strength, right? Doesn't mean you can't protect yourself as a woman and you're not strong. It's just like you just want that safe zone, right? With a strong masculine partner. And if he's not stepping up to that, she will step up and create her own safety, albeit with a mask that's creating a lot of unfulfillment. And basically, that's where you see her getting angrier and angrier and more annoyed and more reliant on masculine energy. Because what's happening for him, also well intentioned, just not understanding the dynamics, is basically his that's making him even more feminine because she's making demands, and a masculine man at his core, his mission is to make his woman happy, and he's going to take her words very literally. So if she's saying do this, do that, and then he's like, oh, if it'll make you happy, I'll do that, and then that just makes her even more annoyed because he's such a pushover, right?
Yeah.
Like he's being such a pushover. And she still, like, that's just reinforcing to her, I can never take these masculine masks off because it's dangerous, because I have to look after him. He's not looking after me, right? And so, well intentioned, beautiful human beings who just simply could understand the dynamics, they could make a shift. And I've seen it time and time again where you could see the most like feminine at her core, masculine woman, aggressive, you know, demeaning to her partner, looks really unattractive, right? And I've actually seen women like this completely shift and become so radiant and so connected into themselves, and so enter into that trust and safety and just relaxation for, you know, like finally, because she allowed the masculine in her partner, he understood these dynamics, she understood these dynamics, they worked together, and he was able to step into that strength. And now he knows the solution to be successful. He was trying to be successful by taking her words literally and, you know, trying to just, you know, do what she wanted him to do, not knowing that was putting him in the feminine and not stepping into his strength. And basically, you know, this is one of the major things I love helping people with, because oh my gosh, like the beauty that comes from people just stepping into the truth of who they are, and allowing others to have an impact, allowing their partner to impact and influence them in a positive way because they have a shared vision of what they actually want to create together. It's no longer me against you and self-protection, you know, or subordinating. It's, oh, like we can create something here, this third entity, and we can actually play on these dynamics consciously and intelligently, to be able to actually get to what we want. And even for the first place, know what the hell we want. Because those women who are in their masculine, they don't even know. They think what they're saying is what they want, right? But they don't know. And neither does he. So they don't have the experience to know the difference and to know who they are, what they want, and have the courage to go after it. So, yeah, hope that answered your question a little bit.
Yeah, this is something that I tell a lot of men a lot of times too, because they get frustrated because I talked about this also in one of the last episodes I did. It's that when men are in relationships, especially when we're younger, in our teenage years and all this other stuff, we always heard like women want the romantic guy, they want this, they want that, and then when we try to be that, oftentimes, men we I didn't realize it at the time, but men start slipping into their feminine, and that's what actually repels the woman. It's not that like he can't be romantic with her or whatever it is, but oftentimes that's what happens. And I also see a lot of women, like you said, start resenting the man. It's like they don't really want to be in charge. They don't want to be the lead because feeling like if a woman leans into her femininity and she feels that the man is making it a safe place for her to express her emotions, to, like be feminine by him expressing his masculinity and being like centered, or like you said, at his core, like he knows who he is. He's secure in his his masculinity. She feels a lot safer. She opens up a lot more, and this relationship works out so much better because I said this before too. It's like a lot of the most happiest women I see are a lot of them, married with children and all this other stuff, with the masculine guy. And a lot of the most, miserable looking, bitter women, they're typically more, I don't need a man. I'm, kind of like act more that type of stuff. So when it comes to attraction, I always call it the seesaw, and that goes back to what I said. Like, like it always starts like the man is masculine. He kind of doesn't really care that much in the beginning. The woman kind of cares. He puts a lot of work and effort into it. Then eventually, when the man starts giving emotions, that seesaw starts tipping, and then usually that's when he slips into his feminine.
Mm.
But yeah. Is it that women are kind of taught, it seems like now, to hate their femininity, or what is it exactly? You said a little bit about, but is that the kind of base feeling it is? Because I see a lot of women when they even think about, like, the stay at home mom or the, just feminine traits at all. Is it they're just like, oh, like that's not me. I need to be, independent. I could do this on my own. I don't need nobody.
Yeah.
Is it that they're being taught to hate their femininity, or what is it exactly?
I see it kind of from a different perspective. So I like looking at these challenges and problems that we have as individuals. I like taking a bit of a meta perspective and looking at what society's doing. Like, where are we evolving to? What's happened in the past? And where are we getting to? And I like looking at it. So Stephen Covey's model, the dependence model, which is, just a simple model that we could apply to this situation. So the way I look at it is relationship dynamics. Let's look at what it was like in the 1950s. It was very man, kind of, like the man who has no emotions and he's the breadwinner, and what he says goes, and the subordinating housewife, who just doesn't have anything else going on, just like her mothering and looking after the home and whatever. That was very weak masculine, right? Weak masculine energy is very self-centered. Weak feminine energy doesn't even have a self, right? It's about everybody else, right? And basically, and that created attraction, right? Attraction was there because there was a very strong polarity between the masculine and the feminine. We were very codependent as a society between the masculine and feminine. The
Hmm.
feminine like needed her partner to survive, and pretty much, I hate to put it this way, that the masculine wanted the partner to have sex, right? Like, so that's, they had a very trading, transactional, financial, sexual relationship.
Well,
Were you
also
going to
someone to raise his kids and take care of the kids too, though.
True that, exactly, that as well, absolutely, right? So there was roles, there were really distinct roles that were being played, and that's what made us codependent. The men weren't crossing the path and looking after the kids and stuff, and the women weren't going to work and earning the money that was necessary.
Mhm.
So we transitioned out of that. That's what we've been going through, and I think we're still, majority of the population are in this stage of independence, right? We've gone from codependence to independence. Hey, I don't need no man, right? Like that kind of energy, right?
Yeah.
And basically we need this. This is just a stage of development. I don't make it right or wrong. It's we all need to develop through the stages. And so, and you can look at this in parent child relationships as well. Being a kid, codependent, you can go into adolescence, you create independence. But basically, now what we're seeing is equality, which is true. We're just mistaking some different things, right? We are thinking that equality means we don't need anybody else and stay away, right? But we need to develop both aspects within ourselves. I think that as healthy individuals, making the transition from the weak masculine or the weak feminine
Mhm.
is actually being able to tap into both. The problem in our relationship dynamics is the neediness. So there is a real value in not having to need somebody, but the transition is, hey, but I want somebody. I don't need them. Like, I don't need you to be in relationship to be okay with myself. But I want that relationship because I see how the differences enhance each other's lives, right? And that's into the interdependent stage. We're not codependent where we have to have the other person and we'll just sacrifice these other parts of our lives. We've learned from that. We've transitioned. Now we're becoming equal, right? We can do both. We can be, we don't need anybody, right? But it's still in its infantile stages of development, because the next stage is that interdependence where, yeah, I don't need somebody, but I do want that because I see the benefits of that. And I'm able to allow this other person to share their differences, bring their strengths to the equation, with that masculine or that feminine and all the other variety of different aspects of our human nature and our differences. But, I wanted to also touch on what you said about, the masculine and the feminine and the men thinking, oh, we need to be romantic, because this also ties into it to this stage, right? There is a big difference because a strong masculine guy is super romantic, but the energy by which he gives is totally different. So a boy, I would say, like, or a masculine chord, say, we'll just say, make him male, who wants the girl. He's like, oh, I need to be romantic. Like, girls want me to share my emotions more or be more romantic or whatever. In that energy, if he has voids within himself that he's trying to fulfill through a relationship, the energy is very giving to get, right? I'm trying to get something from you. I'm trying to get a sexual relationship. I'm trying to get the relationship because I don't feel good enough within myself. I don't have a solid masculine backbone. I need, like, to do whatever it takes. Like, it's a manipulation. I'm going to be romantic to get something. Well intentioned, not saying that anybody's trying to, necessarily negatively manipulate anybody,
I
but
mean, I
they
guess
just
that's
don't
how it
get
always
it.
starts out, though, too. It's I always say, like in the beginning, women use sex to get love, and men use love to get sex. In the beginning, it's kind of like the games that people play, in the immature stage. It's that type of thing.
Exactly right. Like in the immature unconscious stage, not
Hmm.
intentionally, even, just that's how it plays out in that level of development. But there's a difference between that, man who doesn't have the masculine backbone and he's trying to be romantic, he's trying to get something and he needs it, versus a well-developed, strong masculine man who knows who he is at his core, knows what he's after, and he has the courage and the confidence to go after it, right?
Hmm.
That, when he's being romantic, is coming from an overflow of generosity and love and direction, not just for himself about what he wants, and I'll give you what you want because it'll give me what I want.
Hmm.
Low level development, not necessarily bad or wrong, just the level of development. Going to, hey, I know who I am. I know what I want. I look after my own needs. I don't need you, but I want you because I'm not just looking at myself now. I'm looking at this third entity of an extraordinary quality of relationship. And I know that I bring different things to the table than a high quality woman as well, right? I'm a high quality man or woman, and I want a high quality man or woman. When I say high quality, I'm talking about just the level of consciousness that they have in connection to who they are, what they want, and their courage to go after it. And basically, we're going to always be attracted to our reciprocal in that regard as well. But it's not a giving to get. It's a, hey, I am being directed as the masculine energy here. I'm directing us to an extraordinary quality of relationship. It's not me trying to give to get something. It's me overflowing from myself being fulfilled and my generosity and my directiveness to what's going to create a better quality of relationship for us as well. Um, and so, yeah, I see that masculine energy can be directed from a really strong place to direct what's best for both of us in the relationship. No longer me against you, no longer giving to get in either direction. So, yeah.
So it's kind of like it. I guess I just want to say this for the people who are kind of going through that immature stage, because I do like talking to people of all ages, and obviously, if we knew this information when we were teenagers, especially like trying to get into relationships, because I talk about this in the book I'm writing. Like nobody taught us about relationships, so we kind of just go and trying to figure out all these things on our own, and we learn the hard way. And just I think relationships should be taught in class in school. It's really important. It takes up a
Yep.
lot of our life, and a lot of people become so cynical, so angry, so disappointment, so bitter. A lot of negative emotions from getting involved with the wrong type of people.
Yep.
So with that struggle to become centered in their core, because like I said, when I was a teenager and I first started dating, I typically did start off masculine. But
Yep.
then, during my teenage years, getting with a certain woman, and then, like I said, the more emotion that I gave, the more I slipped into my feminine.
Yep.
And now I understand how to do it as a masculine man, still be able to give that emotion, but from a masculine place. Because, like you said, when you do it from a place of masculinity, there's just the whole tone, the whole everything, the whole energy is different than if you were in your feminine and you're trying to give
Yep.
that energy as a feminine man.
Yep.
So how can women who are stuck in their masculinity, they're not even I'm talking about the women who are feminine in their core, but
Yep.
they're stuck in their masculinity, that armor. How do
Yeah.
women go about breaking down that armor and learning to trust their femininity again?
I love this question so much. And the way that I would answer that is I'd start with the biology of it, right? So when we are operating in our masculine energy, we're actually building testosterone in our body.
Yes.
Now, testosterone is the de stressing hormone for men, not women, right? So for women, when we're building testosterone, it actually can exhaust us, right? It's definitely not de-stressing us. It's putting us in higher energy and we need it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
for men, it's actually very de-stressing. So for men, even operating in masculine energy, whether they're masculine at their core or feminine at their core, it's very de-stressing, very great, right? In that regard. For women, the de-stressing hormone is oxytocin, right? So oxytocin you don't get when you're succeeding in the workplace, right? You don't get when you're taking the lead and taking charge, which is brilliant. But just know this on a biological level, testosterone doesn't de-stress you, oxytocin does. So that's why so many women are getting more and more overwhelmed, and needing even more that environment where they can relax into their feminine, which the best place is in the presence of a strong masculine energy, right? Not to say they can't do it on their own. The way that I would say is engage in different things and activities and whatever that allow you to build oxytocin. So some of those might be, and this is in one of my master classes, I go through the processes of how men can develop more or access more of their testosterone, women oxytocin, to relax into those environments or energies. But for women, oxytocin is built when we, it's through connection, right? Like,
Right.
maybe it's through, talking with a friend, or it's in indulging the senses, like, having a relaxing bath, lighting some candles, aromatherapy is really great. Just doing things for yourself, not for others, right? Like what makes you happy, right? Like, for me, like like having a shower really relaxes me, right? But like,
Right.
doing something for me would be like learning something that I'm really passionate about just for me, or dancing, or moving my body to music, or even just like doing my nails, doing my hair, doing my makeup, like I do that stuff for me, right? Like, and I get a lot of criticism actually for how much I love my hair and my makeup and my dresses and my outfits, and like that's actually an area where I do cop some criticism in the public arena, right? But they don't understand that this is my personal self-expression. This is my self-care. This is me nurturing my feminine energy and not being afraid of it, right? And not dulling it down. That's one of the criticisms that feminine women can get in the external world. And I'm not saying that all people use makeup and hair and all that sort of stuff to in a very healthy way. A lot of times it can be done from a very insecure way, but it's not always, right? And so yeah, whatever you love to do as a woman for you and you alone, engage in those activities like multiple times a week to build that feminine muscle. And it's very important. Like, we can say the little things that we can do on the surface, but it's super important for women to have some processes, and men too, but we'll talk about the women accessing feminine energy. We need to reflect back into your past, right? And we need to look at the different pivotal moments that have happened for you that gave you the message that maybe your feminine energy wasn't to be shown, or was criticized, or you weren't nurtured in some certain ways that you would have required to feel better. So we do need to, again, go back, clear the past to make way for you to step into. It's not about saying you have to be all feminine as a woman, or you have to be all masculine as a man. It's just about having a healthy relationship with both those parts within you and being able to draw upon them for what the environment calls upon. Women need to relax with oxytocin. That means accessing those feminine parts of us. We also want to attract the right quality of partner that's aligned to the core of who we are. So if we're at the core feminine, we want a masculine at his core. Doesn't mean he's not going to access his feminine energy as well. And we want to be able to play on those dynamics to recreate and reignite the spark when we want attraction in our relationships, rather than feel like it's totally out of our control and now we've lost attraction and that's it and move on to the next relationship. No, there's just dynamics that you can have access to. This stuff is actually quite simple. It's deep, but it's simple. And so, yeah, that's what I would say in for feminine women to access more of that feminine energy.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I liked about Tony Robbins' things, because I seen a few times when there's a woman, there's a specific episode when he was talking to like a woman. She was like in her 70s or 80s, and she was so used to being in her masculine. I don't know if you saw it, but he brings her out and he like gets her to like kind of dance or do something, and she kind of like starts slowly falling into her femininity again. And but basically going back to what you're saying, this is something I tell people too. It's like everybody has a specific biochemical formula that they need to operate at their best. And this is what I see a lot in common about relationships. It's that I see a lot of times women kind of they expect their partner to kind of be kind of like a woman. They kind of share everything with the man. They kind of expect him to be like around him all the time and all that stuff, without realizing like the man needs to hit his own space to build testosterone too. That's why you see like men like kind of go to their caves, or they'll just be going like after they get off of work, they'll go home and watch TV and they just want to relax because his
Yeah.
testosterone level is depleted. And so he needs time to readjust, back to that, to where he feels good again. Um, but that goes to the communication differences between men and women, right?
Absolutely. I mean, my early relationships were exactly like that.
Mhm.
Like, very codependent, like very me, like, oh, can't you take the day off work? Or, like, and they did, like I was forcing them into that, but they were very codependent with me. And this is the thing that I want to say, again, about the levels of development. We can't skip over this stuff just with some knowledge, right? Like, we actually need to go through. It doesn't make us bad or wrong. They're just the necessary stages of all of our development. And we attract our reciprocal. The person you attract is the one that you will do the most growth with, right? If those people who keep attracting the same partner, they're attracting the same partner for their own evolution. You haven't learnt the lesson yet. Take some
Yeah.
responsibility, right? And see what you're doing to co-create the dynamic that you say you don't want, but you keep attracting. Your way out is always through the lessons. And the same thing with our codependent relationship dynamics. We've got to go through independence in order to eventually get to interdependence, and we can only do that through experience. Knowledge is great, conversation is great, but then put it into practice is the only way out.
So there's a couple more things I want to talk about
Yeah.
before we start wrapping it up. So what is the real power of femininity, and like what are its advantages? And especially what does it do for the masculine as well?
Mm, I like just, yeah, really felt into that right now because um the real power of feminine energy that gets lost is, uh, we've because of our perception, we've seen feminine energy as a weakness, right? And basically, when women and men step into really owning this aspect of who they are, we get out of the brilliance of the masculine, that can be very directed and focused and logical and factual and all of those things. We don't lose that. What we gain is depth in that. I know we've spoken a lot about Tony Robbins today, but I wouldn't be in the position that I am without him. So I'm so grateful for a man like that in this world who's doing the work that he is, and also for his beautiful wife, Sage. But they're great representations and role models for what it is for him to be a strong masculine leader who can be, he commands attention, he commands the stage, right? All of that. But then in a moment, he can be in tears, right? He goes deep and shares that emotion. And the same for his wife, right? She is a very great example of a strong feminine leader and woman, right? Because she like can let Tony lead and everything, and she can come in and she can be directive and she can help and coach people, but she's doing it from a place of depth, love, connection to herself, and unity, right? Like with the world. It's that's the strength of strong femininity and strong feminine leadership. It's the depth, it's the roots in all of that beautiful stuff that we can be directive with, but it's not this it's deeper than the heady stuff, right? It's deeply connected, and it's more about a vision for unity and all, right? Like it's looking and it's looking at what's best for everyone, and that's the real element that I feel goes missing. And men, oh my gosh, like the power of a strong feminine energy, that awakens and inspires like this deep part of strength in the masculine that's been missing, right? We've been so much trying to make each other the same as us that we're missing this inspirational depth. I actually believe it's why, like the dating realm now is just like it's missing all the depth. Like it's
Yeah.
just such surface level, like these apps and hooking up. Like there's no meaning, there's no depth because everybody's just the same. We're negating what the feminine does to the masculine and what the masculine does to the feminine. And I've had another couple of my own breakthroughs where I've had a very strong masculine presence, at another Tony Robbins event. This is the Tony Robbins podcast, basically like, in an environment like that, I actually worked with a man, right? Like he was practicing his masculine presence and he chose me just to do that work with. And I thought I was helping him, like just be present and practice presence. He broke through without saying a word, no words whatsoever, just being in the total strength of that masculine energy that, like, I'm so grateful that men can bring and women can bring, but again, the majority of men.
Mhm.
He actually broke through to me at that point and made me realize like the power of masculine energy and how grateful I am for people to show up in that, because of the gift that it gives me as a feminine woman to feel that level of safety and to feel like I can, relax into that strength and be more of who I am, not from a weak place, but actually from a very strong place. And that weakness that we're seeing in everybody being the same is because they're in the, those developmental stages where we think we're going to lose ourselves if we allow somebody else's strength to come into play. We think if we relax into that, we'll lose ourselves, we'll go back to codependence, but we won't once we get to interdependence. So I really feel like all of that is coming. And we've got a lot of chaos in the global world, that to me is just showing we're in that, that stage of development. We're shedding that authoritarianism, we're shedding all the negatives, the darkness, right? We're not going to be there just yet, but like we're on the way. And I see where that's going. And that's why I love having conversations like this with amazing souls like yourself, right? Because this information and this way of looking at the world and being able to like honor our differences and our uniqueness and our authenticity, that's on the way, right? That's the way that we're moving, and it's going to have a lot of great benefits and outcomes, which I'm very inspired by. So yeah.
Wow. And I think we should probably wrap it up, I guess, huh? It's probably been about almost what, an hour and a half, 2 hours?
Yeah, hour and a half, I think, about that. Yeah.
I think actually 2.5 hours because we started at two
Oh,
o'clock. So
okay.
all right, so which I love this because honestly, I knew this would happen because I feel like I could talk to you all day about so many different
No,
topics.
totally.
But
Yeah.
but for now, is there anything else you would like to add, or last words, and also where can people reach you at? Because I know you have a website, which I believe is wait, I'll let you explain. So where can people reach you?
Yeah, sure. So people can jump on my website at vanessajanepatrick.com. It's a bit of a long one, but yeah, there's actually a free 3-part video series people can get access to at the top of my website, which is all about discovering your genius. It's going into the neuroscience of personality and getting a taste of what that looks like and how you can tap into your key strengths and start honoring those and developing those. So if people are interested in that, and also, like I just mentioned, just kind of came to me, if people are interested in going deeper in some of the topics that we discussed today, I do run the Limitless Potential Academy. We do monthly masterclasses.
Mm.
So basically, I've developed the masterclasses as like a personal development journey from the beginning of everything that's helped and supported me. So we start with the 6 human needs, which we didn't get time to answer, but
Yeah.
that was my kind of starting place in personal development, all the way through to the neuroscience of personality and all sorts of things in between, so that those of us who want to take responsibility for our own growth, our own fulfillment, and honoring our authenticity, deepening our intimacy, and contributing meaningfully, then yeah, I wanted to just give for your audience, waive the joining fee, which is $97. So if people want to jump on that, like maybe they can just reach out to me, shoot me a message, or shoot you a message, let me know, and I will do that for them. So yeah, and I just wanted to say, Kai, I'm really honored for the opportunity to come and share some of this great stuff and have these amazing conversations with you in this environment. I think what you're doing is awesome. I've loved getting to meet you and connect with you as well. And I mean, I'm like the same as you. Like, I'm sure we could talk all day about all these amazing different topics. So yeah, it's what I love to do, and yeah, gives me a bunch of energy. So I've just wanted to thank you for that.
No, I mean, thank you for coming on because honestly, I've been wanting to do this with you for a while. I mean, you're a really phenomenal woman. I love everything that you do. Like from your YouTube to your also people. She does have a podcast as well. It's called the Limitless Potential Podcast, I believe, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So if you guys want to check that out, you can do so. It's on Spotify too, correct?
Yeah. So I think it's on all the, I don't know. I don't know. It's all across the platforms, whatever
I'll
it's
put in the
doing.
link. I'll put in the link. How
Okay.
about that? All right, but
Okay.
other
That
than
sounds
that,
good. Yeah.
yeah, thank you
And
again,
and
Vanessa.
I also wanted to just say that, like we've mentioned before, I'd love to interview you too on my podcast. So, yeah, we can have another conversation, another excuse to have one of these interesting conversations with you.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
for
I'm
sure.
down.
Absolutely love it.
All right,
Awesome.
everybody else, thank you for this episode. I hope you like it. It'll be out on Spotify really soon. And if you would like, follow her. I'll put the links below. And thank you again, Vanessa. Everybody else, take care.
Awesome. Thanks.